Take a close look at this geometric pattern. As you scan your eyes across the concentric rings, you likely perceive a steady, spinning rotation. The circles seem to glide and twist, but there is exactly zero motion happening on your screen. The image is completely static. You might assume your display is glitching or your vision is failing. It isn't. Your physical eyes are functioning perfectly. The lenses are focused, and the sensors in the back of your eyes are capturing the light bouncing off the screen with total accuracy. If the physical data collection is accurate, then the false motion you are experiencing right now is an error being generated deep inside your skull. The breakdown happens after the light leaves your eyes. Human vision is never an objective one-to-one recording of reality. It is a highly subjective interpretation, an interpretation that can be effortlessly hacked. We tend to imagine our visual system operating like a mechanical video camera. We assume our eyes act as passive lenses, constantly streaming a live, unbroken feed of the external world directly into our consciousness. In reality, the eyes solely collect raw, completely meaningless particles of light. They do not process context, depth, or meaning. They just harvest photons. The actual conscious experience of an image is constructed much later, entirely from scratch, inside the pitch-black void of the brain. Because the brain is forced to manually build your entire visual world from this raw, disconnected data, it is uniquely vulnerable to making critical errors during the assembly process. Light enters the cornea, passes the pupil, and focuses onto the retina. Here, specialized cells, rods and cones, absorb incoming light, instantly converting it into electrical data. This data rushes down the optic nerve, arriving at the visual cortex at the back of the brain. But there is a biological flaw in this pipeline. By the time that raw data reaches the visual cortex, it is heavily degraded. The brain receives a signal that is noisy, delayed by fractions of a second, and wildly incomplete. At this exact anatomical bottleneck, objective reality ends. To present a coherent, continuous image to your consciousness, your brain is forced to guess what the missing data should be. To handle those massive gaps in data, the brain acts as a fast editor. It relies on a set of hardwired evolutionary shortcuts, rules about context and contrast, to stitch the image together instantly. Look at the marked squares on this checkerboard. One appears dark gray, the other bright white. Your brain predicts color based purely on surrounding shades and shadows. But by stripping away the context, we reveal both squares are the exact same gray. Another critical rule is the depth shortcut. The brain aggressively attempts to force a three-dimensional perspective onto flat, two-dimensional surfaces because it evolved to navigate a physical 3D environment. This depth assumption allows simple, flat lines drawn on a page at specific angles to completely confuse the visual cortex, creating the perception of impossible geometry, like endless staircases that loop back onto themselves. Similarly, specific high-contrast pattern arrangements manipulate the brain's edge detection shortcuts. As your eyes naturally make tiny, involuntary twitches to scan a pattern, the brain misreads those rapid shifts in contrast as physical movement. Optical illusions are not random glitches. They are precisely engineered visual attacks designed to exploit your brain's most relied-upon survival shortcuts. Watch this footage of an asphalt highway in the summer. Heat radiating from the road bends the light before it reaches your eye. Your brain applies its normal shortcuts to this distorted light and generates a mirage of shimmering water on completely dry ground. The fashion industry actively weaponizes this exact science. Designers use tightly spaced, contrasting striped patterns to manipulate how the brain calculates edge detection, making the human body appear significantly wider or slimmer than it actually is. Architects and urban planners rely on these same principles. By using forced perspective, altering the angles and spacing of painted road lines, they can trick drivers into feeling like they are speeding, forcing them to naturally slow down without thinking. Because our reality is actively interpreted by the visual cortex rather than passively recorded by the eye, our entire built world is specifically designed to manipulate our visual shortcuts. It is easy to look at an optical illusion and conclude that the human brain is weak or easily broken, but the exact opposite is true. Look at the reaction in this clip. A hand darts out to catch a falling glass milliseconds before it shatters. Relying on predictive guesses instead of waiting for perfect data allows humans to react to sudden threats before the conscious mind even realizes they exist. Waiting for the eyes to collect, verify, and transmit a flawless, high-resolution image of the environment would simply take too long. In a hostile natural environment, that delay is fatal. Your brain is not a passive camera. It is a hyper-efficient prediction machine. To keep you alive, it prioritizes speed over perfect accuracy. And sometimes, the safest thing it can do is make the wrong guess.